Tracey works as a bariatric consultant and as a patient advocate for people of size. She has over 20 years of experience offering independent advice to several leading healthcare companies. Tracey works with staff, clients and students, offering advice and support to assist in the care provided for larger people. She also works as part of a team delivering training in the moving and handling of plus-size patients.
Hi Tracey, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. We're all really excited to have you here with us. Can you give me a little introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah. So, hello everybody. It's nice to see some familiar faces. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm an ordinary person, which sounds, I work full time, I look after my own house, I look after the garden, I drive an unmodified car. There's no extra, equipment in my house, no extra handles, no different furniture. My life is completely ordinary. I have a work life, a social life, a family life. There's a few things though that my weight makes tricky, and just to tell you a little bit about my weight, I was skinny as a child, thin all through my early years. I come from a thin family. Everybody is thin except for me. I gained a little bit of weight when I turned, 16, 18, put on a little bit of weight, still very active, swimming, playing badminton, all of those good things. And then when I turned 30, my partner died suddenly in an accident and my mental health just collapsed. And it was around about the time of the advent of home shopping. I was off work on full pay and my coping mechanism was food. So I do this mostly in kilos, but if you're still in stones and pounds, I'll try and translate. So I went from about 130 kilos up to 240, which is 41 stone, thereabouts, at my very heaviest. I was still mobile and active. I was 30 years old. Since then, my mental health has improved and my weight has come down. And where I'm at currently is my main focus is not to gain weight, to manage my anxiety, my depression, all of those things that cause me to overeat in a way that stops me from overeating. So my main ambition is to not gain. That's okay in my mind. But a better day is if I can lose weight. So from my heaviest at 240, I think I'm down to about 205, and the journey to hopefully continue losing carries on. It's going to be a long journey. Just before lockdown, I got to 175 kilos, and then lockdown happened, and locking me in a house with home shopping is clearly not a good idea. And my weight went back up, and now we're back down, and, it's an ongoing issue. But just to tell you a little bit about my health, I'm not diabetic, I'm not pre-diabetic. My blood pressure is normal. Liver function, kidney function, all those good things. I'm remarkably lucky, I appreciate. But I do what I can to look after myself. So I eat my 5 fruit and vegetables a day. I do as much exercise as I can. And at this weight, just getting through a working day feels like quite a lot of exercise. But I do yoga really, really badly, and that's for flexibility and balance and all those good things, as well as for my mental health. I do it at home in my bedroom. I'm not yet at a stage where I'm showing my yoga moves to anyone else. But I might get there. I hope I will. So, does that...
Thank you. Can you tell me about any admissions to hospitals, what anxieties and fears these might bring and why?
Yeah. So I've had a couple of emergency admissions. I had a lump on my breast that was removed in an operation about 25 years ago. More recently, I've had appendicitis, I've had a pulmonary embolism, and I've had a hernia repair. Just to tell you a little bit about appendicitis, I was at home with agonising stomach pain. I rang my local surgery, my GP, who's fantastic, and they said, come and see us immediately. And my other half said to me, I'll run you up there so you don't have to drive. And I said, okay, but I need 5 minutes. And I had a shower, put on a full face of makeup, including lipstick and a nice frock, and got my best handbag out. And he didn't ask me at the time because he could see that I was dealing with a lot. But afterwards he said to me, "What on earth were you doing, putting lipstick on? Like, was that really the priority?" But I know that the way I get treated in any healthcare facility, and indeed any situation in my life, I'm judged on my appearance. And if I can look composed, hopefully slightly polished, I will get a better reaction from the people there than if I rock up feeling how I absolutely did feel with appendicitis. It's my defence mechanism, and it's a form of armour against the world. But I completely recognise there's a time and a place for it, and appendicitis isn't it. So, but that's how I approach every situation, really, and how I, try and prepare for what's coming.
Yeah, I find that quite hard to hear as a healthcare professional, that you feel that judgment and scrutiny, and you feel that you need to do that. Have there been any events during your admissions that can help you to explain what your experiences are like?
There's a really easy one I can remember. So when I turned 40, my doctor's surgery, and I have a good relationship with my GP, which I'm very lucky about, but they called me to the surgery for just a standard 40-year-old health check. And the nurse sat down with me, and she, first of all, she didn't have a bigger cuff, so she went and got one. That's fine. She had a bigger cuff, and that alone is something. And then she measured my blood pressure, and she said, "Oh, this cuff isn't working." So, okay, you're the expert, not me. So she disappeared and found another cuff, a larger one again, and took my blood pressure again and said, "There's something weird, this still isn't working." And I eventually realised that it never occurred to her that my blood pressure could be within normal levels. She was absolutely certain it would be raised, and that was what she was expecting. She didn't ask me, she didn't address the question to me. Now, my other half is tall and thin and very fit, and he has raised blood pressure, and I don't. He says it's because he lives with me, but I don't know. But that's just one example of the things you can't tell from looking at someone. The other thing, since my pulmonary embolism, I take warfarin every day, and I'm monitored at an anticoagulant clinic, and I've had to tell them so many times to please not put my appointments in the middle of the day. I am self-employed, but it's still hard to break off from a working day. But when I'm sat in the waiting room, everybody else is a lot older than me, or my assumption is that they're not working. So a daytime appointment is fine for them. But it's every time I seem to have this conversation, 10 past 11 on a Monday is not the best time for me to have a blood test, I'm sorry. So.
Kaz was talking about work that she had done, patients' experience of rehabilitation, and there was often an assumption that a patient wasn't able to reposition or move themselves. Have you encountered that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had my pulmonary embolism, I actually felt pretty fit and well, which is bizarre, but it didn't actually cause me any pain, although it was very serious, and I'm very grateful for that. But they had to keep me in hospital. I was stuck in for 4 weeks, and I was so bored. So I got to the stage I was making my own bed. They'd just drop off the linens, I'd make my own bed, and then I'd go for a walk. But it's just the assumption, really, that I didn't have a job to get back to, that I didn't have a home to look after. All of these things, when people meet you for the first time, particularly if they know you've been admitted for a couple of weeks, and some of the day you're possibly wearing like a dressing gown, the assumption is that you don't have a job to get back to, that maybe you don't have another half, you don't have any reason to want to get back home. And I was climbing the walls. But I can tell you as well, when I had the surgery for hernia repair, I'd had a series of admissions, and they didn't want to operate because it was not a good idea at my size, and I completely support that, but it got to the point where they had to operate. And I was recovering, and I was starting to feel okay, but I could not be bothered to eat. It just felt like a lot of effort. And I was clearly on quite a lot of drugs because normally any kind of anxiety, eating is how I soothe and cope. But the doctor was quite strict and said, you must start eating. We want everything to start working again. And I hadn't ordered lunch, but the trolley came round and I said to the, I don't know the right term, allied health lady, I'll have a sandwich, please. And she said, oh, the low-calorie ones are down there. And I hadn't eaten for, I think, 7 or 8 days. And straight away I just went, no, I'll leave it, thanks. And I fully accept that was done with the best of intentions. And she was trying to help me, and she felt she was doing a good thing. But it was against medical advice, and it was really unhelpful the way she delivered the message. So that goes to show that if you're making changes in your organisation, it has to go through everybody. Discrimination comes from people of all levels, all stages. So you have to tell all your bosses, but you have to tell everybody all the way through your hospital as well.
Thank you. It sounds like you could do with teaching some of our other patients about getting up and making their own beds as well. That would be wonderful. Can you think of any positive experiences you've had in hospital and what made the difference in that experience?
I've had lots of positive experiences and I feel very grateful for that. I think somebody said to me the only thing that works in the NHS is the staff, and I wholeheartedly believe that. None of you go into the job for the money, let's face it. I think anyone who's prepared to meet me as an equal, who recognises that I have an awareness and knowledge of my own body, what it can do and what it can't. So even something like saying, if you'd like to get onto the table, you know, is this the easy side for you to get on, or would it be easier to get on the other side? Like I sleep in one half of an ordinary king-size bed, so I get in and out the same side all the time. Just somebody saying which is easiest for you is enough to make me feel more confident, and my body is more flexible and more used to working that way. So it can be little things. But as another example, I had a colonoscopy recently. It's the joys of getting older, but 100% do not recommend if anyone hasn't had one. But when the nurse rang me to book me in, she said, have you got any questions? And I told her what I weighed. And straight away she said, okay, no problem. Tell me, what are your concerns? So I listed through it. You know, will the bed be weight rated for me? Will there be a gown that I can wear? Lots of different things that were concerning me. And she just said, leave it with me, I'll call you back. And she called me back, reassured me on every point. And then when I got to the hospital, most importantly, she was on shift and everything that she had tried to set in place was in place. So they had a larger bed set in a cubicle with extra space. She had 3 patient gowns laid out for me and said, whichever one you feel comfortable to wear, whichever one works for you. As it happened, none of them really fitted me, but I had my own. I had a brand new nightie that I'd taken along, which she'd suggested. At every stage, I knew that she had considered my weight. So I got onto the bed in the cubicle and she wheeled me through rather than transferring once we got there. She was absolutely marvellous, and every step of the journey she had seen through my eyes with my comfort and my dignity and my good treatment in mind. And that was amazing. And that's what we would all want for everybody that we look after and everybody that we love, to have that completely seamless experience.
Thank you. So that's an individual showing you an investment in providing good quality care. What can an organisation do to show that it's invested and willing and wants to provide quality care for patients with higher body weight?
That's a really interesting one. I absolutely loved what Emma said. You know, you already have these treatment pathways. It's just filling in the gaps. The truth is, nobody goes to hospital just because they're fat. We go because we have cardiac problems, orthopaedic problems, pulmonary embolism. So we need to fit into those pathways, but the definitions and the equipment provision needs to be expanded to make sure that everybody can be accommodated. The first time you encounter a larger patient, I think it is actually acceptable to have a bit of a panic and say, I haven't got the right equipment, I haven't got the right gown. But when it's the second patient, the 10th patient, the second year, the 10th year, why are we still reinventing the wheel? We have the expertise. There's a lot of expertise here in this room, and everything you know about how you look after your bariatric patients should be recorded so you can help teach everybody who knows less. So, yeah, but it needs to be bought in at the highest level, and unfortunately also it is expensive, and we are not a fashionable cause. We are an unfashionable cause, and will always be considered so, because there is always going to be a proportion of people who believe that this is purely down to self-discipline. And on one level, I completely agree. But if I sat in front of you and I was a functional alcoholic or a weekend drug user, it wouldn't show on the outside. The effects on my health might be as considerable, but it wouldn't show on the outside, and you wouldn't be able to make an instant judgment. If I can also say something about what Emma said, you've said that, as a patient group, we can be difficult to handle. Absolutely agree with you. And I belong to a community of bigger people, and I talk to them online. And I am so grateful that you're all here listening, but I say to everybody in the community, engage. If it doesn't work for you, complain, engage, help people, teach them. And as a community, we're very averse to doing that. And the fact is that when you come into my space as a patient, you might be perfectly nice and perfectly helpful, but stood behind you is every other person in my entire life who has not been helpful, who has not been positive. And your voice is, you're probably saying all the right things, but I'm hearing a lot of other voices talk to me. So you have an uphill struggle, and we're not easy, and we're not fashionable, we don't attract funding, but I'm somebody's daughter, and I look after 2 elderly parents. I have a sister, I'm somebody's other half, I'm somebody's boss, I'm somebody's employee, I pay tax. All of these things, I need your help to get back out and doing all those things. And when my life is going well and my mental health is good, then I can lose weight and hopefully participate more and contribute more. But you can't judge me just from looking at the outside, I'm afraid. But just the fact that all your audience are here and Medstrom as a company are taking the interest to have this day tells me that things are improving, tells me that we're going to get actual valuable improvements. I'm firmly an optimist.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that perspective. Another perspective I wondered if I could ask, it's an area that seems to cause a certain amount of controversy and concern, is how to refer to somebody who is of higher body weight. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I have. Can I share what you told me that you had? So Debbie told me that this day is called a plus size day, and they had contact from somebody who was really unhappy about the usage of that term. Now, I am probably one of the voices that keeps telling people that plus size is an acceptable term. And the reason is, amongst my community, which is English-speaking people across the world, so America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, lots of people in Europe, plus size is the one that's going to offend least people, but it's never going to make everybody happy. But plus size has some positive connotations, so I would recommend that one. People of size, people living with obesity, please don't make the size the only thing that you recognise in me. So person first, person forward. One term I absolutely hate, and I would recommend you please don't ever use, and it was on Kaz's presentations, and I know that she's very sensitive, that it's old research and it says it, and that's the words morbidly obese. That literally translates as dead fat. And even for our clients and patients in palliative care, we don't use such unkind terms. And it's not even dying, it's actually dead. So as I sit in front of you today, one description of me is morbidly obese, but that doesn't feel like the most accurate description of who I am as a person and what I need to be treated for and rehabilitated to. And so if you take nothing else away today, I would say get rid of that one. And the other word that I absolutely love, and Emma used it, and she said average. and she said standard, and she didn't say normal. There's a meme that says normal is a setting on a washing machine. You know, none of us is normal. We're all, you know, different, and, you know, different ways of thinking, different ways of moving, different modes of living. We work hard to fight discrimination against, you know, sex and colour and religion. This is another thing on that list, I'm afraid. As bigger people, we do face discrimination. We need your help. But the word normal isn't helpful. If you can just substitute it with average or standard, that's helpful. In terms of framing a conversation, if you can make it feel for me that it's the equipment that is failing and not me. So if you can just frame it to say the bed doesn't fit you rather than you don't fit the bed, that implies that it's your problem and you're going to fix it rather than my problem and I need to immediately lose 50 kilos. So just little tweaks in the way you address it will hopefully get you a more pleasant patient, and that's somebody who's easier to deal with. Words are the only way that we have of swapping information, you know, it's what we all rely on. So yeah, careful choice of words, person first, don't say morbidly obese. Does that help?
Perfect, thank you. I know that you and I have shared emails about potential resources or sources of information that might be useful or are considered useful but potentially aren't because of terminology or advice given. Have you any resources that you would promote for inspiration or motivation?
Absolutely. So all over the internet, all over YouTube, there are fantastic examples of bigger people doing amazing things. You know, there are people swimming, there are people cycling, there are people doing physical things. The most recent clip I saw was of a larger man entering a diving competition who moved through the air with the most incredible grace, and he was a very sizable man. There are lots of good things out there, so get onto Google and get looking. If you want something to inspire you and to inspire your patients, you'll find it there. I've got a website, there are resources on the website. I try and add to it if I find something useful. So there are resources for plus-size yoga. Some are adapted so they can be done seated. Some are adapted so they can be done in a bed. There is no reason not to encourage somebody to move. Just one movement can be enough to make them think, this is possible for me and I can achieve more. So I've worked as an advocate for a lady, and now she does yoga, which she tells me she does it as badly as I do. She's bedbound, but she still does breathing exercises, upper body movement, and it's increasing her flexibility. Most importantly, it's helping her mood, it's helping her fight against the destructive, compulsive eating urges, it's improving her self-esteem, it's making her feel better about her life. I've worked as an advocate for a chap who is 17, who is bedbound, and he's a person of size. And when I suggested yoga to him, I got the exact reaction I expected. So, okay, what else might work? So he does lifting routines in bed with dumbbells, and literally we started with empty ones and now he's lifting bigger weights and he's working on his in-bed mobility, and now he can reach things. He can get his PlayStation himself, he can get his phone if he's dropped it further down the bed, and it's helping him. So what you really need to do is a toolkit of suggestions of things that people can do and make it as appropriate as you can for the person. Now, he has got to the stage where he said he'll consider yoga, but I don't think I'm there yet. But I'll keep pushing because he's so young, he needs to be on his feet, he needs to be living a full life. And his mental health is improving. It's a journey. Life is a big journey. But I think he's moving in the right direction. I'm so proud of him. And his parents are proud of him, and, you know, big love, yeah.
Oh, I could sit and talk to you quite happily all day. I wanted to thank you so much for your time coming here and just asking if you had any closing thoughts for us.
The one thing I'd say is please be an ally. If you notice discrimination in your environment, just speak up. Tell your colleagues, nah, that's not acceptable. We don't talk about people like that. We don't single people out like that. I am so grateful that you've listened to me today, because listening to people is the biggest compliment you can pay them. So listen to your patients and listen to how they want to be addressed, listen to how they want to facilitate their own rehabilitation. Just be an ally, just stand up for me, please, and just say, we don't do that. That would mean the world. If we have an army of people going, no, not acceptable, things will change, and they will change for all of us. It's, you know, my problems show on the outside, lots of eating disorders don't show on the outside, but stopping discrimination helps every single person, not just us big people. So I'd like to say that, and I'd like to say again, thank you so much for listening. It really means the world to me and to my community. Thank you.